somehow keep your kid on your insurance until they're 26 translated into a generation of let your kids not grow up and sit in your basement and be adults that are still acting like kids that don't want to grow up because they've got it dicked. They're still living off of their parents' hard work. And we are back with another episode of the Julius Files. I am your host, Jason Julius, and I have Matt and Trish here with me. And
we got introductions this time.
Hey. Well, yeah, no, but I mean, I wanted to mess with Trish. We'll get to that a little bit later. She
coming soon.
Yeah, exactly.
I've missed a few podcasts.
No, yeah, what I got to mess with you about, it's all encompassed around the actual podcast itself. But yeah, we'll go there. Okay.
That you're going to get blamed for something that was probably my fault.
So,
and I wasn't even there.
I mean, I got a story. Honestly, it's a depressing story, but
that's what I wanted on a Friday.
Yeah, a story nonetheless. So, this lady calls me about a potential franchise inquiry, and she was not the inquiry. I've known her, and she was telling me that she had a potential inquiry for me because she knows and she knows some people that have the money and the ability to be franchisees, and they were interested in the franchise for their son because he had taken an interest in the industry. And so when I sat down to dinner with her, she was like, I'm not saying that there's not a potential possibility down the road, but it's off the table right now. Let me tell you why. So apparently this kid goes to college in another state, and I need to ad-lib details because I'm not trying to like call anybody out. I'm trying to get to a bigger point. But when he goes to college, he finds the love of his life, and the love of his life's father just happens to own businesses in the industry that he was going to college for. Okay. On that piece of it, I'm going to give you the punchline ahead of time so that you actually understand. The father recognizes this guy as like, let's just say a weak individual that he does not want to see his daughter mate with, marry with, whatever. So he offers him a job, and he takes the job. Well, he takes the job in an area of the country that his girlfriend and his daughter doesn't have any desire to be in. So automatically they move out there because he can get the job out there. And then obviously that puts the relationship on the rocks because she's living where she doesn't want to live. And it exposes the weakness in the relationship itself. Now this dude is working for the father. So now they're split, and the father's got this employee that it's probably pretty obvious he doesn't want. So then he relocates him again to another operation. I can only assume that this other operation would have been a downgrade because the father has already accomplished what he wanted to. He, like I said, he recognized him as a weaker individual, and he's like, don't want with my daughter. And so when he moves into this other operation, apparently he has a mental breakdown, and so he quits the job and he moves back home. So parents being very well off, they let him obviously move back home and move into the basement, and he proceeds to go get a job managing a coffee shop for $12 an hour. And I mean, I'm bringing up that $12 an hour because I'm sitting there going, this kid went to college and got a 4-year degree, and they tell you that if you go get a 4-year degree, you're supposed to be able to earn X amount of money. And
shit. I mean,
so, but the point being, mommy
depends on the person.
No, true, but mommy and daddy willing to give him a soft landing. He has the ability to get a manager position at a coffee shop making $12 an hour, and now he's met a new girl and everything is all hunky-dory, and obviously mom and dad wanting to see him like, oh, you've taken an interest in coffee. Okay, well, we want to enable you to go further in life. So they present that they would be willing to help him on a potential franchise opportunity to further his life. Oh, I don't need a franchise. I know what I'm doing. that's why the franchise itself got put off to the side. So automatically, as she's telling me this, I'm like, I didn't need to have to contemplate this problem. I mean, I'm like, I want to open franchises, but I need to open up franchises with a little bit stronger people, obviously people that are going to align with my respect, rapport, reputation, and be a little bit, I mean, like, again, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a franchisee or going into business or a business owner. It's not for the faint of heart.
It ain't easy.
No. So like, automatically it's like you got a kid that went through an emotional breakdown that is actually supposed to be educated, that settles for a $12 an hour job and has an opportunity to actually open I don't need a franchise. I'm like, okay, obviously so then it comes out that as she's telling me further about this, that the parents are getting agitated now because they let him have their credit card and he goes out and spends as he sees fit. And I mean, you know, apparently he does go and do his actual job making $12 an hour, but obviously he doesn't want a franchise or to do anything like that because
it sounds like he likes to spend more than $12 an hour.
Well, that might be, but it's not that's not my punchline of what I'm trying to get to. His parents are enabling him to not have to be a real adult. And therein lies the bigger problem with this generation and with this country. And you know what? I mean, you're going to think that I'm busting Obama's balls. I'm not, because I don't see anything wrong with him changing the laws so that you could keep your kid on your insurance until they're 26. But somehow keep your kid on your insurance until they're 26 translated into a generation of let your kids not grow up and sit in your basement and be adults that are still acting like kids that don't want to grow up because they've got it dicked. They're still living off of their parents' hard work, but they're adults now. And I'm like, that's the problem. I'm seeing too much of that in our society, and this was just a perfect representation of it, because then I go back, and we talked about this a little bit, the analogy of when we were all taught to swim. What was our parents' desire when they were teaching us to swim? To teach us a skill?
Well, debatably, I was an unwanted child, so that could have been there trying to drown me, but I think they'd fucked me in. It was a swim lesson, and that was the story I got.
I'm afraid of water. I don't swim. I think it's fucking crazy. I don't understand why people want to go underwater. Send me to space.
So your parents never taught you how to swim?
I have severe panic attacks. I don't get like deep in water. I don't do none of that shit.
Okay, well, let me tell you.
I love
basic instinct. Your parents teach you how to swim, one, because most people do like the water in general, but it's a skill set for survival. You teach your kids how to swim. That's where the whole saying comes, sink or swim. Too many parents are enabling their kids, and they're not actually teaching them how to swim. They're enabling them to not swim while they're in the water of adulthood. That's the point that I'm getting to.
I mean, it makes sense to me when you say sink or swim.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe some of this stems from our parents, because, you know, we're in this place now to where people are like, oh, you got to be woke. You got to work through your traumas. You got to do your shadow work. You got to do all these things. So your discipline for yourself, when your mom probably slapped the shit out of you a few times, you didn't really do that to your kids. And now you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to hit my kid. Like, I don't want to, be that person. So they're kind of coddling these individuals. And they're like, it's okay. You'll be fine. Everything will be okay. When really they're like, yeah, well, I don't need to kick your ass, but I need to tell you go out there and get a fucking job.
No, and I'm going to give you one better on that, because I was sitting down having a conversation with Dave yesterday, and he's telling me that, I don't know how they got on the conversation, but he's talking to his wife, and he made the comment about standing in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And Dana goes, oh my God, that's child abuse. And I'm like, you think that's child abuse? Let me talk to you about my childhood. But I was like, what do you mean standing in the corner is child abuse? Like, that wasn't shit. stand in the corner and hold books on your hands. Like, the one, it's not child abuse, but just stand in the corner because you got put in timeout because you did some stupid shit. If that's what parents see as child abuse today, I'm like, here's the problem. Here is the problem with this generation. Like, we go back to the previous podcast where I read that girl's article where it's like, this generation knows nothing but prosperity. But half the problem is the prosperity that they know, it's their parents' prosperity. It's not even their own prosperity.
And their grandparents.
Yes.
Like
And again, and that's where we come back to that.
Getting passed down.
Yes. And that's where I come back to I don't believe in generational wealth. I think it does more harm than good. I'm all about, like, if you're going to die, like, don't give it to the government. I'm not saying that you shouldn't give your kids a leg up. Yeah, don't they? Yeah, really, they do.
They're figuring out how to spend it right now.
Exactly. They are the epitome of counting your chickens before those eggs hatch. No, I completely get it. In all seriousness, it's like, this hurts my soul. Like, this is where that empathy comes in, where I'm sitting there going, like, I know child abuse, or I know child abuse by today's standards. By today's standards, like, I got the shit beat out of me. I don't think that I did. I think that I was a little shit, and I got my ass beat a whole lot.
Got what you deserved.
Yes.
Same.
I can look at, and my parents were their parents telling them, go get the switch off the tree, and they learned the lesson that the small ones hurt a whole lot worse than the big ones. And their parents, there might have legitimately been child abuse involved with their parents from their parents. Like, because back then it was like homestead, like, I'll beat the out of you and you will respect me and I will beat you until the morale improves.
Well,
type.
there's no labor laws.
Exactly.
And how far back you go, it's like, go work in that mine.
So
6, but shut up, get the fuck down there.
Exactly. So and we've talked about this with pendulums. The pendulum swinging from one direction to the other, and I'm like, grandparents' parents and their parents, like, that was the extreme of that pendulum. Maybe she beat my ass a couple times when she shouldn't have. Maybe it got to my legs and my back a couple times when it shouldn't have. But pendulum coming to, like, you know what? Fearing pain is not a bad thing. It's generally a major deterrent to keeping your ass out of jail and making you think twice about doing stupid shit. So I really see myself as, I'm about the middle of that pendulum. And the people in the generation that came after me, your generation, like, there was still a little bit of ass beating and you came out okay. But we have swung that pendulum so far the other direction where parents are unwilling or afraid to instill fear of pain. And then you've got parents like, and I love Dana and Dave, but for Dana to say, oh my God, that's child abuse for standing in the corner, I'm like...
I'm thinking she was probably kidding.
I don't know that she was.
Dana, I'm going to go on and say you were kidding.
I'm hoping, because I know her daughter, and her daughter came out to be a pretty good kid, but I'm like, and I shouldn't, like, I'm sure she came out to be a great, I only know of I'm not saying pretty good, like, no, I don't know. But I mean, every interaction I've had with her has been a pleasant, respectful type, but that's not my point. My point is the pendulum has swung so far to where not only are they not disciplining their kids, they're enabling their kids to be worthless. And that's a problem when our whole Ponzi scheme that is America is based on next generation taking care of previous generation. That is what Social Security is built on. We have to always be growing the population and always be depending on the next generation paying into Social Security to take care of the retiring generation. But this generation is enabling worthlessness. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm sitting there going, if my kids hearing this, they'd be laughing going, not with my dad. You got a kid that literally got a 4-year degree education paid for, and he's being allowed to live in a basement and be told it's okay to just make $12 an hour with the 4-year degree and live in our basement, and here's a credit card, and you're just a little bit agitated. I'm like, in that scenario, my kid never gets my credit card, and I would probably be on him about get the out of my house. And I was like, I remember telling my son, I'm like, boy, you're 18 now. You're no longer a liability. And I tolerated him in my house for, I think, the next 3-4 years.
A while.
Yeah. You say a while, but let's be clear. A while is like, as I specifically remember when it come to that house, I exited that house and said, I'm moving out and I'm leaving this house. You better figure it out because I'm not letting you follow me. And that was at 22, I believe. 22 or 23.
Yeah. It would have been like 22.
And I mean, and my son is growing into a fine young man. And he knows, I think deep down, if he ever gets into a pickle, he can call me. There is not much that I won't do for him. But I got to a point where I was like, you have a 2 in front of your age. Like, I don't care that it's an early 2. It's time to grow up. It's time to sink or swim. It's time to take your ass into adulthood. I'm not liable for you. I'm not supporting you anymore. It's time for you to become a man and understand a man goes out and works and provides for himself. He does not suck off his parents through his 20s to get to becoming a 30-year-old worthless, and I'm a stoner gamer. Because I'm sorry, I see too many of them that I'm like,
Stoner gamer.
You're still smoking pot. You have no ambition, and you know why you don't have any ambition? Because your parents are still letting you live in the basement like you don't have to grow up and have responsibilities, and that is a generational problem.
Don't throw all the stoner gamers into the
No, and again we get back to, because I remember at my age, or when I was a kid and they had games, it was like, oh no, you shouldn't let them focus on those games. And then it came out that, you know what, if you got really good at those games, it was really good for hand-eye coordination. And I'm like, okay, skill set. I mean, you need good hand-eye coordination about anything. Doesn't matter whether you're driving or building but then you get to the other side of it where I'm like, if all you do, and again, we hire, you sold me on it, hire gamers, because they stay out of trouble. So again, like
well, not only stay out of trouble, if they're online gamers, they have to deal with assholes from everywhere in the world.
So there is a little bit of, okay.
They understand how to deal with people better than most people.
And again,
it might be awkward.
No,
and they ain't going to cause a big
and because it is the socially awkward, which is the other problem that comes out of homeschooling. Because I'm all for homeschooling if you have the time and the ability to actually homeschool. But I think the bigger purpose of school systems is learning how to socially interact with other personalities, of diverse personalities, because it prepares you more for the real world more than it actually educates you. Like they took home ec away, they took woodworking away. They don't teach you anything about balancing a checkbook or finances. So the damn sure ain't teaching you anything in school. But the social interaction teaches you how to assimilate into society, and that is the bigger piece where, like, I think I'm like, okay, how do you overcome that piece when you come to homeschooling in general?
But to scoop back a second, I think it's important to remember how things were when these people's parents were growing up. Like when they turned 20 in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a great economy. If they did go to college, it was affordable. They got out. They were able to get a job because there was decent paying jobs. Housing was affordable, so they could go and get it. Your money in the bank would double.
I don't believe
7 years.
And I mean, you're saying that, but it's like,
no, but that's the world that they lived in. So like, they don't know how to teach somebody who's coming up now where college is stupid expensive. Your ability to hop out and get a $25, $30 an hour job isn't what it used to be unless you have a very specialized skill.
I mean, there's ebbs and flows in the economy, and again, we come back to personal responsibility. There are in-demand and out-of-demand jobs and positions, and you are supposed to, one, have a little bit of common sense, and if you're going to college, you're supposed to have a certain amount of freaking IQ, but to be looking at where is the job demand filtering out of, where is the job demand filtering into, to be strategically planning your future, and the college is the education that is going to guide you to that future in general. And then you have ebbs and flows in the economy where I'm like, no system is perfect. I just think capitalism is a better system than any of the other systems that are out there.
Probably.
The point is, I'm quite sure if these parents said, you have to get out of my basement, they'd figure it out.
I think that some of them might figure it out, but I think that you still have a few that are just going to become bums.
They're just going to sit on the
and they're going to
They're bums in the basement.
But they're going to become even more bums because now they're going to be not only problems in your house, but now they're problems in society because they're going to be couch surfing with all of their friends.
So that's how you would justify parents not throwing their kids out into the water and saying sink or swim?
No.
Okay. Because that's what
I'm just saying that they didn't grow up in that. So like if it's hard to teach somebody something when you never experienced any of that. So
well, I know I don't go to my dad for lessons about business. My father just taught me high character. He taught me work ethic. He taught me being a responsible man that goes out and provides as a man. But beyond that, he didn't teach me any major life skills. I had to learn them through actually living life. I mean, but I moved out at 17 years old. I mean, mainly because he was like, well, if you're going to drop out of school, you're paying rent. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to pay rent, then I might as well live on my own. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe these parents need to start charging their kids rent and being heavy with the rules to encourage, you truly want to be an adult and live on your own and make your own rules? Then go pay somebody else rent and get out of my house and start becoming an adult.
one of the best things that one of my friends did is he charged their kids rent from the time they could start working, 14 or 15, up till they left. Charged them rent and just kept putting into a savings account. And then when they went to move out and get a house,
He gave them the money?
there's your down payment.
That's cool. Unless he was charging them rent at 14 and he let them live with them till 34. I mean, that's what, it's not pushing your kid out there and throwing them into the water.
Yeah, he didn't have any kids stay that.
Saying sink or swim. I mean, because that's my point, is that they're enabling a holding pattern that is neither sinking nor swimming.
Yeah, well, I mean, you start charging people rent. There's a point to where it's like, why am I paying this amount when I can pay just a little bit more and I don't have to deal with any of you here?
Yes.
And that's where you got to get them.
Okay, so changing topics because
Packing Trish now.
I mean, I'm
Get all the swimming. I don't think even
it allows me to make a bigger point. So, like when I started this podcast, I wasn't sure what it would evolve into, and I'm still. I don't. It's not that I'm saying I'm unsure. I'm saying that it like the roots are growing where I know, because it's my podcast and I can do whatever the hell I want to do, that it's not just one thing. But what it was intended to be was, I see too many people glamorizing entrepreneurship, and it was intended to be entrepreneurial chronicles that would talk about the real truth and struggles of small business. Then my brain started evolving about how I felt about business, and it's like I fully intend to interview entrepreneurs, but I will be putting them on the spot and telling them, I don't care if you have millions in the bank or if you're struggling, tell the real story. Don't glamorize, because even if you have millions in the bank, you still have many near-death experiences. That's what I want you to be talking about, so that people get the real story about being in business.
If you want to share your story, get a hold of us.
No, that's
You're booked.
And once the bus is done,
We'll show up at your door.
That's the whole come to you and meet you where you are. But the point being, then as I was evolving, I was like, well, if I'm going to be honest with people, that's where I'm going to be honest and say, don't go into business. Because I can look back now and say, had I truly knew and understood the odds were 99-1, like, who the hell plays those kind of odds? That's dumb. So I want to be honest and transparent about that. And if you're one of the lunatics, apparently like me, that want to go for it, okay, well then I want to talk about like lessons and principles that can help you compress time. Like what took me all of these years. Like I know enough now where if somebody comes and says, I don't care what you say about not doing it, I'm going to do it. Now tell me how to compress time. I can do that, but I can only do that from a small business perspective. And the reality is, while we might be in multiple industries, I don't have any business talking about anything from a mastery standpoint other than small business. And honestly, my lane really needs to stay in food and beverage. And again, easiest to get into, hardest to master. So damn sure I'm not going to take anything away from my skill level when it comes to food and beverage, but I don't need, that's it. That is a real small lane, small business food and beverage, because I can honestly say, man, there are just way better out there putting out way better content if you decide you want to get into business and you want to talk to somebody about compressing time. And I mean, you both have like, there are a handful of people that is my go-to, like for business information in general. But then I also saw a thing and I clicked out of it because it was an ad, but it was Robert Kiyosaki. And he started in with, your coach or mentor that you go after depends on where you are in your life. If you're broke, you should probably go talk to Susie Orman, or who's the other dude that teaches everybody to pay off all their debt and get out of all their debt. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
That a piece of paper could draw him.
You would draw him?
Yeah.
I feel bad because I mean, like,
I can see his
he has taught a lot of people like how to balance your checkbook, how to pay off your debt, and how to actually keep your ass out of trouble. And I can't remember exactly what, I don't know. Dave Ramsey. There we go. And for this generation, if you want to learn some weird shit, when I say weird shit, I laugh because I'm like, Gary,
you can learn some weird shit.
No, trust me. But I'm like, Gary Vee is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All he wants to do is buy the jets. And then he puts out content that he's like, man, I just love going and shopping at yard sales so that I can buy something for 25 cents that I know I can sell for $25. And I'm like,
it's a hell of a return.
No, I get it is a hell of a return in general, but I mean, and I'm not taking nothing away from him. Total hobby. I agree with a lot of what comes out of Gary Vee's mouth. Some of it though, I don't like. I could push back on a little bit. If you are seriously going to be in business, you shouldn't necessarily subscribe to patience. I'm not going to deny that it takes patience and delayed gratification to get in your entrepreneurial journey in general. But if you operate on a daily basis with, well, I just got to have patience, like you're going to be one of the 99.
You're going to be waiting.
Yeah, and you will be one of the 99 that will actually fail. But the point being, I'm like, one of my issues is that I see people regurgitating other people's words, or I see people talking about what they haven't actually done, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to you. You're full of shit. And you're only full of shit because you're trying to get in a lane that you don't have experience to be talking about to be in that lane. Okay, so when if I say my lane is small business, and then let's call it that lane, and then if I say, okay, well, small business, food and beverage, okay, now I've gotten into more of a narrow lane. what am I most passionate about outside of business? Quality of life. How to live a good life in general. Both with decisions that you make, people that you spend your time around, your eating, your health choices and decisions. And what I'm getting at is that it's how
I'm still trying to figure out how we're attacking you.
No, it's coming.
Here we go.
Because I want to stay in my lane. Originally, when I knew what this podcast was to be, this podcast was supposed to be about business and education. That is not the category that Trish put the fucking podcast in.
It's all about me now.
Trish put the podcast in culture and society as far as the category of the podcast when you list it with podcasts in general. And this has forever agitated me, and I don't know how much effort she's put into it, but I do know that she has put some effort into trying to figure out how to change
Explain
and
yourself.
and reclassify and recategorize that. And the more that I think about it, the more that I'm getting comfortable with that category, because I'm sitting here going, if my goal was to only have a podcast based on business, there are far better authorities that are far more experienced, have way more proof, i.e. money in the bank, and are more well-spoken than I am to be specifically talking about business and entrepreneurship. Like I said, I can coach and I can mentor in this lane, but when you're putting things out into social media and me being like honest, transparent, I can't tell somebody how to start an internet business. Like that's not my frame of reference. And Alex Ramosi is a perfect example that I'm like, if you want to get into sales, if you want to start into a digital business, I'm like, that dude is the GOAT. Like, you should be hanging on his every last word. He has proof, hugely significant proof, that what he says is due to experience and actual execution. And I admire the guy both because, I mean, like, it's obvious when you listen to him talk, he's very intelligent in general. His thought process, he has caused me to evolve my own thoughts on generational wealth and legacy. And he is somebody that I consume his actual content, and I look at it and I'm like, if you're trying to grow $1 billion business, and he will tell you, he hasn't eclipsed the $1 billion mark. He thinks he's on the pathway to do it. But I'm like, I don't need to be talking about how to build $1 billion business. I don't know shit about. I'm trying. I know our business, our platforms have the ability to be Coffee Junkies and Pizza Junkies as a franchise growing into national brands can easily become $1 billion operation. But that's years into the future, and I can't be talking about now what I don't know about. What do I know about? Well, I know about health. I know about living a higher quality of life. I know about having, as fucked up as I am, I know about solid mental stability. I know about physical health and thinking about be kind to your future self. What you do today, what you consume today, you're going to get to tomorrow, and the effects are going to have an effect. I mean, like, treat yourself mentally and physically like shit when you're young and you have the ability to actually do something about it. And my parents are a testament to 70 plus looking back going, oh, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I would have done that. And I'm sitting here every day seeing that, trying to learn off of it. So I'm imploring people, like, pay attention to your mental health, pay attention to your physical health. And you don't need to get jacked, but like, pay attention to your gut health, pay attention to your dental health. When you get to be 70 years old, like, what's one of the few things that you should still be able to do? enjoy some pretty damn good food. Yeah, that's like, so I wanted to give you shit because I'm like, we were never in the category that I wanted us to be in until I realized my level of mastery and my lane. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to run after business and education, because there are some people out there that are putting out content about business and education that they are way further down the road than me. And I listen to them. I'm trying to get to a better place, and I want to talk about that as we go. And I'm not saying that I can't tell you how to go from 0 to 1 million. I've done 0 to 1 million multiple times. I know how to go from 0 to 1 million. It is just as hard to go from 0 to 1 million as it is to go from 1 million to 1 billion. While the principles might be the same, the systems, the mindset, the team, they're different. They're
Exponentially so.
Yeah.
yes. It's completely different worlds where I'm sitting there going, I want to help people live better lives today. I don't want to wait for another 5 to 10 years to have $1 billion business to be like, okay, now you should listen to me because I'm an expert in this, when I know that the same people that are putting out the content that I'm listening to helping me get there, well, their content is available to anybody and everybody. And I've said, like, don't start your own thing. If you have to scale with people, don't start your own thing. Either buy a current business, franchise because the systems are already developed, simply because in this day and age, technology is too far along. Like, you franchise a business so that you're unpacking systems, trying to get into business where you have to scale with people today and compete with the big business that have utilized all of these technologies, like zero-sum game. Like, you're just not going to win. And if you're not going to win, if you don't have any shot at winning, don't play the damn game. So buy an existing business that's already got a customer base. Franchise off of a business that's offering an opportunity to unpack a proven freaking box. Develop a skill and offer yourself out as a solopreneur. But if I'm going to sit here and say, don't go into business, well, then the other lane are the crazy fuckers that have already decided and they've already taken that step. And I'm also, again, speaking from this of, I was in a career and I chucked that career and got into this lane. Well, if you're 20 years old and you feel entrepreneurship in your bones and you ain't started down a lane, I don't know, maybe it's a different story.
As long as you're not mom and dad's basement.
Because that's again, what is the responsibility of parents? To teach their kids the ropes to put them out so that they can become productive members of society in adulthood.
I think that sometimes parents forget that some parents want to just be your friend. And they're so worried about being your friend, they're not worried about teaching you how to really survive.
No, and I came to that because I was like, that's your mom's racket. Don't come to me to be a friend, not at this age.
Yeah. And that's the thing too I've noticed, especially with some of my friends, like their parents have pretty much just coddled them. They just kind of oh, it'll be fine. Well, you'll figure it out eventually. Well, now you're 40 and you got 5 kids and you're living at home and here we all are on the front porch. So that's a problem.
Then the question is, are the fathers of those kids sitting in their parents' basement, smoking dope and playing video games and being like, well, I ain't got a job, so I can't pay child support either.
Took him a while, but he raised a teammate.
That's great. Okay, so this is why I'm fearful of society in general. And I'm looking at it going, okay, well, how? Because, I had that conversation with Allah, and a textual conversation, and he was like, I know.
Because you've never had a whole conversation with him.
That's not fair. He and I have, that's what I said. In today's day and age, you have so many different ways of communicating that I have had many of conversations with him.
I can't say much. I've missed, I think, 3 out of the 4 social media meetings.
The point being,
It's his fault, though. It's not my fault.
he knows. I do. I want to affect people's lives because I think that I bring a healthy perspective that what do I want this podcast to be? I want it to be part of the conversation. I want to stoke conversations, inspire thought that creates action. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the business space because it's not about being in business when it comes down to being a decent human being, being kind to the people, to your neighbor, and literally being a productive member of society. And then we get back into the videos that we just recorded, my core values, respect, rapport, reputation. And I'm like, yeah, that might apply to the business, but it applies to everything in life in general. And I'm like, yeah, you have to put forth effort and be willing to hold yourself accountable if you want anybody to respect you. You have to understand humility. You have to be kind to people to develop any type of rapport with people. And you actually have to have pride in the efforts that you put out if you want to develop any kind of reputation worth having. And that applies to everything in life. I don't think enough of that is being talked about. I think that they're too busy enabling and coddling, and we're seeing the negative of this pendulum swinging too far over here. And on that topic, I'm one of the encouragers of, come on, let's bring that shit back. There was nothing wrong with instilling fear of pain. It stopped people from doing stupid shit.
Or even reciprocity. You give and give and give, but nobody is giving back to you. Your parents are giving and giving and giving, but yet you're still taking and taking and taking. When's the last time you went over there and took their trash out? When is the last time you called and said, hey, is there anything I can get for you today? Mm-hmm. Nobody does that anymore. It's a pain in the ass when your parents call. Or it's a pain in the ass when your boss calls.
I'm trying to remember the movie.
No, that's always been a pain in the ass.
No, but do you remember the movie? What was the movie? Because it was something in the movie. There was something like literally serious going on in the basement. But he was in the basement. He's got all his computers around him, and his mom's yelling at him, and he's like, "Mom, leave me alone. I'm trying to blah 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 blah." And I'm thinking, she ought to come down there with a frying pan and beat your ass.
Sit down there and flip all the.
You're a 30-something living in mom's basement. Get the hell out of mom's basement and go learn how to be an actual adult that pays for your own shit. Quit sucking off your parents. And because the thing is, if you'd left to Marcia, the kid that could shit. We talked and joked about this, that Cole was going to be failure to launch. If it was left to my ex-wife, oh yeah, she would have been like, no, stay in the basement. I'll cook you 3 meals a day. I'll bring it down to you. Don't worry about it. No way. I'm sorry. I have love.
He also wants to be on the podcast.
I told him that that's why I wanted to get Riverside set up, so that it wasn't about having to be here, so that we could have a good podcast.
You don't want to invite him up.
Oh, I have no problem. Hey, that's not fair.
Got it.
When I went to Colorado with my mom, I still bought Cole.
Oh.
But did you invite him, though?
This works perfect, too. He said thanks for the invite, by the way. He was like, I have PTO. I could have went, but thanks for the invite.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he wanted to come see his grandmother and his aunt.
Oh, man, that does kill me, because I would have happily taken him.
He was pretty upset about it.
Well, maybe he ought to reach out to his father.
Or maybe Daddy should give him a call.
No, I'm here again. I got nothing but tough love, okay? I am not here to coddle. If my kid had reached out to me, I would have said something about it, because... So I go out there.
I also would have went and hung out with them. I'm just saying.
You say, and I didn't, and you know what, you would have, but because I'm like, I stayed 10 days, and it was like, the older you get, you realize time is more valuable than anything. I gave my mother the most valuable thing that I could give her. I gave her my time. I gave her 10 days, and she utilized it. I had to leave on the last day at 3:00 to make my flight. At 1 o'clock, I was on a ladder trimming trees.
They're the best till the end.
But don't get me wrong. I was on the ladder trimming the trees because I walk outside and she's on the ladder and I was like, get down now. No. I was like, you're going to fall and hurt yourself and I'm not going to be responsible. No, dude, she had me, one of them tree trimmers where you're like, get it and pull on it.
The clip.
Yeah.
Not the chainsaw, but the clip.
Yeah, she's finding limbs as big as my arm going, can you get that? No, Mom, that's chainsaw. Sorry, you can't. No, I mean, yeah, I think
she didn't accept no for an answer.
No,
she's out there hanging from that tree.
It's very, very, very possible. But the highlight of it all was being on Pikes Peak, and she goes and finds that damn song, Being on Top of the World, and then starts singing it. I thought that was just, that was classic.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty good.
Okay, we're at 46 minutes. You guys got anything that you want to say to...
I'm glad that I screwed up the podcast and it was in Culture and Society because, that's where we're headed now.
Because I really do feel like that it's like that's...
I feel like I kind of
unknowingly directed us.
I did, because I feel like we don't always talk about business. We have off the rails. We talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. Then you talk to yourself sometimes. So I feel like
I talk to myself a lot of times.
Yeah. So here we are.
It's only when you talk back to yourself that I think it becomes a problem.
Right.
Okay, so in closing, so Vickers, which does screen print and apparel, and we created...
So glad we're ending on Vickers.
AF Apparel. No, we're not going to... So we went out to, let's just say to a state fair, and we were promoting all of the words. And I mean, there was kind of a side bet on which words would be more well received than other words. And you can see, like, I like this word. Like, I think everybody...
Microphone. There you go.
People would come by and they would look at this word and they would be like, oh, grateful. And they would, oh, AF. And then they would walk away. So I'm here to tell you, if you're not grateful AF, you ain't fucking grateful enough. Because I think the grateful and the AF is the exclamation point on it. And I think that this should be flying off the shelf. And I think people should be more grateful. But they were like, oh, AF. Like,
he just teased me up. I would love to have that type of shoe. What sizes do those come in?
Up to 6X.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I've never seen a 6X.
Do you have any?
I don't have
apparel?
any AF apparel.
Me either. Huh?
I only have 3 Scared Rabbit shirts from 2 years ago, and they have holes in them.
Huh.
And Skylar's got new shirts.
Skylar's got shirts. Heather B has shirts. Stephanie's got shirts.
And Antonio's got shirts.
Sounds like you guys better fix that. No. Oh my God. I can't believe that. This is where we come back. I come back from vacation to have a meeting to say, I'm done with the hand holding. And then I've got 2 of them sitting here going, oh, apparently I got to go in there and be like, okay. And I will go and say, let's order some 6X.
You started by telling me just how upset our accountant was that I spent some money.
Because we all know. No, but that's not fair because Matt.
Brian, you seen it here. He said I can spend more money.
Matt enjoys. He takes pleasure in spending my money. And Brian, which is the accountant, is like, he's trying to spend it and I'm trying to keep it in the bank.
But Matt makes it look good, though.
No, I do get wrong. I defended. Because, he spent $1,200 on this. And I said, but Brian, the $1,200 he spent stopped us from having to spend $4,000 because it fixed a problem.
So it saved.
Yeah, no.
$500. That's my math. Is that a bonus?
I smell that.
Okay.
Might be money.
So,
I think so.
In wrapping this up, I really want to say that, I want, I think these types of conversations need to be had. But maybe you don't agree with me, which, I mean...
Fuck you.
No,
sorry.
I mean it.
Not that harsh. We still love you.
Yeah.
Just a little less.
But it is conversation that needs to be had because the pendulum has swung too far the other direction. because I'm not a proponent of child abuse, but I'm not also a proponent of children having no
Discipline.
no discipline, which it ultimately I think comes back to they don't have any respect or fear of pain, because nobody wants to discipline, and like words only go so far. And I'm just simply saying, I'm not saying beat your kids. I'm saying actions, taking an action and being an actual parent. And it's just one topic of many that I have and want to continue to broach, because these are topics that are affecting our society. And whether you like it or not, it's a big-ass Ponzi scheme. If we don't keep having babies and them going out into the world and being productive, then the system collapses, because it is all about the next generation paying into the system that takes care of you, that allows you to retire.
That's why we're getting robots.
I know we're wrong. Maybe AI fixes all of that over the long run, but don't you think we want to pay attention and instill some good work ethic and some good values in our kids, rather than just enabling them to be unproductive members of society? Like, the whole point of being a parent is to teach our children on how to be good, productive members of society.
I mean, stop looking at me. I don't have kids. I'm not going to have kids.
I get it.
Adam, I'd have to beat them.
But you know what? The thing is that, I mean, but you've been a mentor to my kid, and the only reason that I have been like totally cool with it is because we're on the same page there. Like, give him good life principles to.
I just don't like that my child care came after the child support ages.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, because it was like, after you're 18, you're no longer a liability.
That's a problem.
How are they going to do those payments?
That's not fair, because what he doesn't want to talk about is that when his little side gig is installing cameras, and inevitably installing cameras requires getting up into some real shitty spots. And it's my son that's like, no problem, I got this. So yeah, it's like, yeah, Cole, that because
gave him a nice bonus this week.
That was the one thing. Cole never had no problem cleaning the grease trap. He was always willing to do the oddest dirty job.
Him and Mike Rowe would get along.
They really would.
Like,
but that's
fucked up shit are we doing today?
Yep.
And let's go do it.
And sooner or later, I will. We will definitely have my son on the podcast.
Not here.
Yeah. Well, you never know. No, I mean that's the. I just can't believe he's going to talk smack about PTO time now, and I'm like, he could have called me. I would have totally paid for the plane ticket. He would have slept on the couch, because I wasn't going to give up the only extra bed, but we still would have been a good time to be had by all. And I would have loved it if Cole would have been with me and Mom to experience Pike Peak and Garden of the Gods and driving through the canyon.
Let's end it on that. If you haven't been to Pikes Peak or Garden of the Gods, you got to go.
It's definitely, it doesn't cost, I think that it was like $30 in order to be able to do it. Yeah.
They literally the train back too.
They did.
With the worst horror.
That whistle, oh my God, sounds like somebody screaming like they're falling off the mountain.
Or they're skinning a child.
Yeah, it was something was so wrong about that. But no, I mean, had the boy said something to me, I would have, that'd be the one thing that would have cost me. I would have paid for his plane ticket, and I would have done that.
So you hear this, Cole, next time.
Oh, trust me. Because I was talking to one of their friends, and she said, or the couple, I was like, oh, I'll be back soon. And Mom heard that. He said soon. And I'm like, shit,
we're going back right now.
Yeah.
We're going to end this recording and get in the bus. We're going to Colorado.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
10 days.
So the show is going to be what it is. But if it made you laugh or it made you think, please share the show. Maybe somebody you know needs to hear it. Rate the show, comment on the show, and if you're listening to it on YouTube, well then, hey, how about subscribing to the channel, because you just never know what we're going to talk about.
You've never lied.
All right, till next time, you guys have a good night.